All right, great. Welcome everybody to the April 15th, 2015 meeting of the Sherborn Board of Selectmen. David, would you please read the agenda?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. First, we'll vote to approve or amend the agenda and add topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance. And one recommended change to the agenda. And then a public comment period of about 10 minutes. And then a consideration of disclosure statement for signature involving Jim Campbell on the Public Safety Committee. And then consideration of appointment to the Leland Farms Board of Trustees seat. And consideration of disposition of surplus property and issuing an RFP. Consideration of grant of agreement for roadway work at Woodland Street and West Goulding Street. And also reserve fund transfer request for Farm Pond. A reminder about tax bills, signing of the 2015 election warrant, and then town administrator report and selectman report, and select the next meetings.
Okay, anything
Dates,
to add
I'm
to
sorry.
that? No. Okay,
What I wanted to amend was just removing elder housing off the reserve fund transfer request.
okay, that's because that's not going to happen or because it's not ready?
It's not ready.
All right.
Okay, move to approve as amended.
Okay, second, all in favor? Aye, and we're approved. Since it's tax day, we have our tax collector here to speak to the town on her favorite holiday.
And I thank you for the time. I am later on your agenda. You might want to cross that one off, too. It's always a busy time of year with vacation coming and town meeting coming and spring fundraisers. So people got their tax bill a month ago. They may have tucked it away or lost it or forgotten it. So I'm here to remind them about some important things. The due date is May 1st, which falls on a Friday. And we are open all day on that Friday. And the payment must be in the office before the close of business at 6 o'clock. There are several ways to pay. Also, if you don't have the tax bill and you need a copy, you can get that by going to www.taxbillsonline.com. And then that's the portal to the taxpayers being able to choose a town, and you choose Sherborn, and then you have several options. Search by name, by address, by map and lot, or something like that. So you can get your own tax bill if we're not open and you don't want to come down. But there are several ways that you can pay as well. You can pay online. Go to the town website, choose the pay real estate. It'll take you to the Unibank website. You need your tax bill and you need a check so that you can take routing numbers and stuff off of the check. Prompts you what to do through that. You can still come to the window during office hours, and if you can't get to town hall but you want to deliver your payment in person, there's a slot in our door when the selectman's office is open, or there are meetings, you can put it in the slot in our door, or there is a box on the front of the building that is locked that is available day and night. You can put your payment in there. You cannot put your payment in any of the boxes after the close of business on May 1st and still avoid interest. It must be in my office before the close of business. You can, however, pay online at any time during May 1st because you're putting that in my bank already, just as I would do with your check if you brought it to the office. So there are three options. If you're going to mail it, I would suggest that you mail it well in advance because we have track records here in Sherborn. The mail doesn't always get where you think it's going to as fast as you think. People used to put it, and they're getting better, used to put it in the box May 1st and think that we're going to get it. It doesn't stay in town anymore. It always goes to Shrewsbury first, comes back, so it's going to be late. And any bill that is not paid by statute, gets hit with a 14% interest fee that goes back to the date of issue. So that's a month of month of interest on a significant tax bill. So we try to avoid that for everybody. In your tax bill, you had a green flyer that tells you everything that I just told you verbally. And also at the bottom of that is the slip where you can make a donation for the tax aid program, and that has no time limit. You can do that anytime, any way that you want. You cannot do that online, though. That has to be either mailed or delivered. And the other thing that was in that mailing was the pink flyer. And I know some people don't pull the flyers out, but these are important, so I hope that you will look at them. This allows you to this tells you how you can get your Farm Pond sticker, but it also is promoting that you buy them online. If you have gotten an excise tax bill in Sherborn and you want a Farm Pond sticker, you can go online the same way you do with your real estate. The only thing is that you would pick the Farm Pond sticker option at the town website. And again, you would need a check, and you would put the routing numbers in when you paid for your sticker. First sticker is $75. Additional stickers are $25. So you have two things to do there. You can't buy an additional sticker unless you've bought a first sticker, and you can't buy them online unless you have the excise tax bill, because we verify your license plate and all of that information in the tax office before we pass it on to Jeannie to issue the sticker. If you're coming to town hall, you need to bring your registration and verification to Jeannie at the window. So that was basically all. I'm urging people not to wait until you get caught up in vacation or town meeting or the end of the month and write your check now or go online and take care of that, and then you can forget about it. And April 15th is a good day to do it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay, the next item is consideration of disclosure statement signature. I'm recused from this item, and I don't think we have a quorum without me.
So do you want to bring it up when Paul gets here, as soon
Yeah,
as
we
he
can
gets here
move that
before the meeting?
when Paul gets here. So the following item is consideration of appointment to the Leland Farms Board of Trustees seat, and the candidate who was identified is the building commissioner, Felix Zemmel. And David, did you want to make any statement about that?
Well, at first we were looking at trying to get somebody appointed to that seat that had some construction knowledge, somebody that could hit the ground running with financial knowledge and be able to advise on or help them out with capital improvements and capital planning and what needs to be done down there. So we've advertised it for several months. We haven't had any applications received for that appointment. So that's when we started looking at internal appointment for the building commissioner, who could sit on the seat and bring that those skills that we were looking for, bring it to the table for the trustees. We are currently looking at what types of conflicts may arise, and we're working with counsel on that. And so we can't do the appointment tonight. But if you wanted to discuss whether you support continuing with that, we could, or just boot it to another night.
Well, I'm struggling with getting behind this, and it has nothing to do with Felix. He's terrific, right? It has nothing to do with the folks at Leland Farms and their residents of Sherborn. You know, we want to serve them just as well as anybody else in town, and that's really the key to my concerns that I need to wrestle with here. One is, what I'm understanding is that this would be he would be compensated to do this, but and by that not additionally, but as part of his salary. So that
Right.
I'm struggling with that, whether that's something we want to do, right? Secondly, I struggle with that a little bit because when he was hired and when the guy before him was hired and we put him into the 22-hour position, we had an interchange on both of those about, you know, the challenge of hiring somebody just over the 20 hours so they get the full benefits, but they're what's classified as permanent part-time. And one of the justifications was you had looked at trying to find how else we could fit them, and those discussions are ongoing with the Board of Health to fill out his time, which would be great. But the key point was that the position required 22 hours of time devoted to it. So now we're carving out a piece of that 22 hours. So it's an inconsistency that I'm struggling with a little bit. The third thing is that I fear it will get the town too deeper into the Leland Farms stuff, where I don't know that we want to be too deep into it, and past experience with whatever we've done with Leland has been not as well done as it could have been. And I can, I don't want to go into examples of that, but basically I said that. So one alternative I might suggest to consider is, because Leland Farms has residents, and we're looking for a volunteer resident to serve on this board, to consider taking, appointing someone from the residency there. And I guess you could say there's two different populations of residents over there, so maybe alternating the population choice for different periods of appointment. But where we appointed somebody from the population there to serve the town's interests, whatever those interests are, and however we define those, which I think we need to further refine that, quite frankly, to get somebody in there, So those are my points where if we were to take a vote on it, I don't know how supportive I'd be tonight.
Yeah.
And those are good points. One of the questions that's we need to resolve before we can appoint anybody is what is the interest of the person who's appointed, and to what extent can they represent the town's interests rather than strictly being focused narrowly on the condo interests. And that's important for a couple of reasons. One is this is a position that explicitly, it was the Sherborn Housing Trust appointment. It's now the Sherborn Board of Selectmen's appointment authority. So it's very different than a typical condominium trust. And so the question is, does that change the obligations of a member who's appointed in that fashion instead of being appointed through the bylaws of the condominium directly by the members of the condominium? So that's one question. And the second question or issue or reason is that there's a financial interest the town does have in this development, including potentially some money that may be owed or may have to be over time, some kind of structured repayment plan or something. And so to the extent that there are trust obligations or loyalty obligations for a trustee who might not be able to participate in that kind of a discussion if they also are wearing a town hat, we want to be careful about that. So we're going to look at that some more. If anybody else is out there who is not a town employee and wants to serve on this trust, let David know. We're certainly still open. It was nice of Felix to volunteer or be volunteered for this job. But
what are the age limitations of somebody that we would appoint to whatever position? You have to be at least 18? And what I'm just thinking about service hours for a high school kid and so forth.
Typically you would go with a registered, somebody who's a voting age.
Yeah, okay.
I would think we'd want somebody with a lot more experience than a high school kid would have, something like this.
Yeah, but I'm with you.
And I think the experience up until now, and the reason we have a vacancy to appoint, or we've had a vacancy a long time, is that was a very tough organization to be a member of for a while. I don't know if it still will be, but it's certainly not something you want to throw a high school student you like.
No, unless it was a future real estate mogul or something, learning the ins and outs of condominium management and the challenges. I mean, they have issues that they're facing over there that whomever gets involved will be part of the process of solving those issues.
It's pretty complicated stuff.
Yeah. But it's key to do it right, so I think we don't want to rush into it.
But I think either a town employee or a resident in that seat would, a Leland Farms resident is going to get hung up somewhere in some sort of conflict.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll hold on that.
We'll hold on that.
And we'll schedule it for a discussion on another night.
Okay, so the next item is consideration and disposition of surplus property. and issuing an RFP. This is for town-owned land near Woodhaven. And David, maybe you want to give us the background on this?
Yeah, there's a development it's proposed on the Peace Abbey project, and that development would need 6 acres. I think it's 6 acres in order to build this development, so it needs some extra space to meet the space requirements. So in order to do that, the town has some vacant property or some property that's not being used that's attached to Woodhaven that the selectmen could declare as surplus property available for disposition. And then we would do an RFP, a request for a proposal process, where it's announced what the specific property is that's owned by the town and that it's available for disposition. And then we wait and see what proposals we receive. And those proposals are reviewed by the selectmen, and a determination is made on the most advantageous proposal that's received. Right now, there's only been one expressed interest in the parcel that's available, but you never know once you hold the process who may come forward.
Okay.
But aren't we, I mean, is this the time for letting folks know the valuation
I think
issues?
it's not.
That's not that,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, this is going to be
In the
put out. If
exchange.
we agree to do that, we'll put it out for a bid, and somebody who bids on it is going to have to come up with a price and meet whatever other terms are in the RFP. This was a development proposal. As I recall, it got very high level of support at town meeting. And the plan that got the support at town meeting included a big chunk of town property, which is what you're talking about now. So it seems like it's consistent, at least we've got some indication that it's consistent with what the town's desires are for that piece of property. The folks over at Woodhaven have, I think, endorsed the idea of making this available, right?
Yes, they voted that they had no plans for using the
Okay.
The property in
that
question, yeah.
Okay. So to the extent it was in there,
But you have in the RFP, David, you have particular terms, right, of,
I don't think those are final yet, are they?
No, I mean, we craft the RFP and then we see what we get in, and then it's based on whichever is the most advantageous proposal. That opens up a negotiation
What's in there
process.
is what we've previously talked about, correct?
Some of it, yeah, and I think there may be some things missing from that.
Okay, that's
David
what
and
I'm
I were
just-
discussing before the meeting. But yeah, we would want to make sure that whatever kind of bid came in met all the objectives we had for that
Right,
piece of property. Pat's telling me I have to talk closer to the microphone.
yeah, okay.
So yes,
So there's still some scrubbing to do on what's in here, is what we're saying.
on the draft RFP that David gave us for review today, I think there's a little bit of refinement he needs to do.
So
A little
our
bit of
purpose tonight is just to declare the parcel
Surplus.
surplus.
Right, and we have
So we're not approving in the RFP.
no,
Okay.
no.
We would authorize the procurement officer to issue an RFP, I think. To
Right,
start-
right,
to
and then
start
we'll
procurement
continue.
process.
Yeah, we'll continue to work on the RFP.
And that would reflect these terms, like Mike was
Right.
just talking about.
But regardless of, whatever proposal comes in, if that's the most advantageous proposal selected by the selectmen, those terms that were in the RFP are not the only terms that are on the table for the selectmen to be able to negotiate that deal.
Okay.
Do you understand what
Sort of.
What I'm saying is
Yeah, I
somebody
know.
could simply put forward a bid for $1 and not have any other terms at all.
Understood.
Yeah, everything is up for negotiation
Yeah.
once you select who that most advantageous proposal is.
Yeah.
You always reserve the right to reject any bids, even if they're responsive, because they may not be responsive enough or satisfactory. Hi, Paul. So we're just, Paul, to catch you up, we were just about to consider voting on a disposition of surplus property, which is the Woodhaven annex land there next to the Peace Abbey.
Yes, it's something we have to do. in order to move that project forward.
Do you want me to read the proposed motion from council?
Sure, that's good.
Move that the board vote to declare available for disposition a parcel of town-owned real estate consisting of approximately 1.36 acres located on North Main Street in Sherborn, being a portion of a parcel of land identified as Sherborn Assessor's Map 11, Parcel 165, known as Woodhaven, and shown on Exhibit A to the request for proposals, subject to a right of reverter, together with an easement over a portion of Village Way. Any restrictions will be set forth in the request for proposals.
Yeah, and the only thing I would amend on that is that you could say Exhibit A in the draft request for proposals, because as we just discussed, this request for proposals needs a little more work, I think, before it goes out.
Yeah, there's, sorry to play town council. I am a professional town council in many places. And I started to read this, and it's so hard for me to stop and
No, I
not
think
be
that's
the
helpful.
lawyer. But there was stuff here that the word shall can't be, you can't have the shall in the RFP. You have to, otherwise no one can bid on this. So there was just like a few little things, but
Do you want to get those to David afterwards? Do you want to give him your...
yeah,
markups?
that's fine, but
There were,
I do want to go forward with the
I don't think-
authorization to issue an RFP.
Right, I don't think we need to approve the form of the RFP. The procurement officer can do that.
Yes,
We just have to approve authorizing him to go forward.
yes, I want to keep
Okay.
it general, yes.
Okay, so do we have a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on that? So this is a motion to authorize, to declare the land surplus as shown on Exhibit A to the draft RFP here, which is the additional land David just described next to Woodhaven. Declare that land surplus and to authorize the procurement officer, who's also our town administrator, to finalize and issue an RFP.
And under discussion, this project, I believe, and I think the board believes, is very much in the interest of the town. It provides over 55 housing opportunities, which we think is a category of housing very much needed in this town. There are many citizens who have been here for years, raised families for years here in town. Their children have grown, they've moved on, they want to downsize, but still stay in town. And this would provide a range of alternatives for those people so that they can continue to stay in Sherborn and enjoy all the amenities that come from living in Sherborn. This was approved by town meeting, it was approved by the Board of Selectmen, it was been approved by advisory committee. It now has a special permit from the planning board, so this project has fairly widespread support. I believe the Elderly Housing Committee has okayed it also. So it's got fairly widespread support. I'd also note that this project is going to, for it to work, it needs this little bit of land from the town. That's the purpose of the RFP. The location is next to Woodhaven, so it's an ideal location where people can walk either to the north to the downtown area or south to the, I don't want to call it the Citgo anymore, it's now the, it's got a,
I don't know. I was going to say the new library, but that's all.
well, you can also walk to the new library. So it's centrally located. It's exactly where we want housing developments of this kind. This is a necessary step in the process. It's not like we're planning to give away anything. It's going to be tied into the special permit, which is going to include a sidewalk along the front of this property. Will include the land necessary for them to build this project, and if the development doesn't take place, it reverts back to the town. So the town is protected, it's in the town's interest, it's in the interest of our residents. I'm in favor of it.
Okay. Good, so we've got a motion and a second. We've had some discussion. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye, okay.
I just want to point out that the document in your packet, which includes the appraisal, is not a public document. That's from the executive session and should be kept confidential until after we get through the whole
Right.
process.
Okay. Thank you, David. Thanks, Paul. And the next item we have here is a consideration of a grant of agreement for roadway work at Woodland Street and Goulding Street West, which is related to an annual town meeting article. And so the background on this is there's a resident at the intersection who has indicated voluntarily that he would be very willing, or I guess they would be very willing to grant the town an easement for the purposes of the intersection to the extent that it's going to overlap with some of their property. They don't want to sell it to the town or have it taken, but they were willing to grant an easement. And the purpose of this is an agreement, and I think Paul's been supplemented by the one with the highlighting on it. The purpose of this is an agreement by which, prior to town meeting and contingent on passage of the warrant item that deals with the reconstruction of this layout, but prior to town meeting, we would enter into an agreement with these residents, the Dailies, by which they would commit that if the article passes, they will grant the town an easement, and by which they would also grant the town temporarily the right to pass over their land to the extent the existing paved portions of the road overlap with their property. So it covers both of the issues we have seen with the intersection as far as property rights goes.
If I could, I'm going to vote no on this. I want to vote no, not because I don't support the reconstruction of the intersection, because I do support that, and not because I don't support the acquisition of the property. I do support that. My problem is that the town has been on this land for a long time, and I believe the town has an argument that we now have a prescriptive right to be on that land, and therefore do not owe the landowner any money, which would be called use and occupancy in the legal world. The problem with this agreement is that it acknowledges that as of the date of signing this, this is the landowner's property. And if we acknowledge and sign this as the landowner's property, that's at the last line of the first paragraph, we have given up the entire argument that we have had this property acquired through prescriptive rights. I don't think it's in the best interest of the town to give up that argument. It's always possible that the article will fail at town meeting. It's always possible that if it fails, that someone might be unhappy with that failure and might bring a lawsuit against the town. So rather than do it this way, since we have been on that land for so long, and town meeting is only 2 weeks away, or is it 3 weeks?
2.
2.
A little less than two.
Less than 2 weeks. I would just as soon wait till town meeting, see if the voters vote to allow us to acquire the property, and then acquire the property. I think we've gone this long. 2 more weeks isn't going to matter. And the downside is that we may get, if we do sign this, we may get stuck with a lawsuit.
Yeah, I agree with you that we would not sign anything in this form for the exact reasons that you said. I do think we could sign something by which they agree to grant us an easement if the
Yes.
town passes the warrant article. And so
Yes.
the question is, I mean, you've pointed out town meeting's only 2 weeks away. Is there any advantage to us taking them up on their offer to grant an easement now? Or should we just wait until after town meeting and wait for the town vote?
Well, there is an advantage to the property owner. He's going to want this thing to pass. He has told us, I think he's come here and said that he wants this to pass. I think if the voters of the town thought that we would be having to take property by eminent domain and have lawsuits over the valuation of the property, they may very well hesitate about adopting this article. So it's very much in the property owner's best interest for him to make clear to all the voters of the town that he is going to give us the property to do the improvements that he so much supports. But I don't want to set the town up by saying that if the article doesn't pass, we owe him money.
Yeah, and so the question, Paul, is whether we redraft this or authorize...
Why not just wait?
for you to redraft. Well, that's what I'm asking you. I'm asking you, does it make sense to wait?
I think it should be plain, if the article passes, he knows we're not going to build this.
Unless he grants an easement. That's not a
That's right.
problem. The purpose of getting
So-
this before town meeting was so somebody could stand up and say, the Dailies have granted us an easement. They've agreed, they've committed to grant us an easement. It's probably 6 to 1/2 dozen the other.
I don't think that the grant would be effective because we don't have plans, we don't have a survey, we don't have the meets and bounds, we don't
It
have,
wouldn't be an easement, it would be an agreement to grant an easement. That's all it would be.
I don't think that's enforceable.
Well, it's as enforceable as a purchase and sale agreement would be.
But you don't know what it is they're granting.
Do we have to go to town meeting to get authorization to accept easements anyway?
It's in there. It's in the...
It's in that warrant article,
Yes.
so we can't do it until we have that authorized
All you
anyway.
could do is accept an agreement to grant us an easement if the town authorizes us to accept an easement.
But what we're doing at town meeting, that article is not contingent upon having this type of thing set up in
No,
advance.
it's not. It's
Okay.
not. This is, the homeowner requested
Yeah.
to enter into an agreement. They were looking to grant us an easement.
The-
I think the downside, based on what Paul said, which I also had come to my own conclusion on, I think the downside of getting into this easement is obvious. And I think, given the short amount of time until town meeting, I think it makes sense, as you said, just to wait until town meeting and then
Yeah.
have them come in and grant us an easement.
Yeah.
I would want them to agree to grant the easement before we go to the expense of surveying to define what the easement
They
is.
were here at a meeting of the Board of Selectmen, and he stood up and he said he would do it.
But that's not binding either, Paul, you know that. So,
I understand, but the other option is for us to prepare a grant of easement and have him sign the grant of easement that would be held by us, subject to getting the authorization from town meeting. Then
we don't
it-
need to do that today,
No.
yeah. But after town meeting votes, we can get him to commit that he'll grant an easement subject to the survey, and that's when we'll define what the easement is. He
Yes.
won't actually be able to execute an easement until we have a survey to define the easement and put it on record.
And a plan, yes, yep.
Yeah, so I think we're coming out the same place.
Yeah.
Okay, so that one's, we don't even need to take a vote on this. Good. Reserve fund transfer request for Farm Pond. Irene, do you want to explain what's going on here? Because I frankly didn't understand the numbers.
Sure. With Farm Pond, and I'm just going to touch on elderly housing, even though we're not going to discuss numbers for elderly housing tonight, but they're both in the same situation.
Okay,
Town meeting each year votes in the omnibus budget, the budget for those particular two funds, Farm Pond and elder housing. The receipts are reserved in a different fund for appropriation.
okay,
Typically, what occurs is you would only transfer the amount needed for the actual expenditures, not the full budget if it's not expended. In both situations, the amount voted, not totally expended, was fully transferred into the general fund and subsequently certified as free cash. The correct mechanism is if you transfer the full budget at the end of the fiscal year you could transfer back any excess remaining that was unexpended. The reverse did not happen, so it did get certified in the town's free cash calculation. So what this does is it actually goes back to FY 2011 and looks at what the voted omnibus budget was, what their actual expenditures were, and what amounts needed to be returned into their receipts for appropriation account in their fund. In the case of Farm Pond was due another $447.28 that should have gone back into that fund, receipts reserved for appropriation, and instead it was certified as general fund free cash.
So, the full amount of the budget was what was authorized to be transferred out of the pot of money that results from Farm Pond sticker fees and so forth, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so but the budget came in less than the actuals came in less than the budget, so there was in essence a turn back, but the mechanism of the turn back, I think what you're saying is, shouldn't go to the general fund and be part of the town's free cash. It should have reverted back to the special revenue fund or whatever you call it, correct? Okay.
Correct.
So can we walk through one of these years? So fiscal 2011, beginning of year fund balance was $95,195. The additional revenue from user fees was $98,715. So that's how you get the $193,910 that was reported to the Department of Revenue. So that means the fund balance reported to the Department of Revenue did not take account of the expenditures out of that fund?
Correct.
And why was that?
Because the expenditures were showing in the general fund, and that's something that we're correcting by turning it into a true revolving fund at the next town meeting.
Okay,
So in this case, in 2011, the omnibus budget was voted at 104,655. That was the amount transferred into the general fund, but their true expenditures were $90,400.93. So as a result, the general fund showed a surplus of $14,254.07 instead of the surplus showing in the particular special revenue fund.
And so we overstated free cash by the 14,254 as well, right?
Correct.
And then the next year in fiscal 12, there was some money returned from the general fund?
Yes,
Okay.
at the close of the fiscal year.
Okay, so that wasn't a problem that year, really?
The practice has been inconsistent because too much was returned back to the reserve in excess of $75.08. So the whole practice has been inconsistent, and that's why we're looking to correct those prior years. For this fiscal year, while we're still in this situation, I'm doing the transfers on a quarterly basis of actual expenditures. And hopefully for FY16, we can establish the revolving fund where there's no more transfers into the general fund. It just stays in its special revenue fund.
And so to get this money back, and what you've got is 4 years' worth here, that it comes to 28,400 and something bucks, right?
Correct.
To get that money back into the revolving fund, is this revolving or special revenue fund? I don't know the distinction.
It goes back into a special revenue fund.
Special revenue fund. And out of the general fund, if you will, it requires a reserve fund transfer out of advisory's reserve fund budget for this fiscal year. Is that correct?
Originally, we proposed a transfer at town meeting from free cash because that's where it was certified at.
Okay.
Advisory had preferred to take care of it this fiscal year because they had a large reserve
it's in
fund
reserve.
established.
Yeah.
So they chose to go the route of just taking care of it now.
All right. And why are we only doing 4 years?
Yeah, that's...
Why aren't we going back to 2008?
When I was originally asked to do the request, I was told to look back through SoftWrite. We switched to SoftWrite in July 1st of 2010, which is FY11.
Yeah,
Prior to that, in FundSense, it would be very
couldn't
difficult.
figure it out, yeah.
Correct.
All right.
Okay, so this is the best we can do. And so what does this do to the free cash number that advisory thought they had? Does this reduce that?
It doesn't reduce the certified free cash
Okay.
at all. If we had transferred it out of free cash back into this, it would have reduced it.
Okay.
However, because we're using the reserve fund,
Doesn't matter.
It's a net zero.
Okay.
That's right. So the turn back this year will be lower by this amount
Yeah.
because we're sucking up some of the reserve fund.
Okay.
Yes, our certified free cash number this year is 1.9 million and some change. A very good number, 46% higher than the year before. So it's not, that's a good number, but transferring this from the reserve fund is a policy decision that advisory has made rather than taking it out of that 1.9 million. There's certainly enough money in the 1.9 million to transfer 28,000 out of that number, but they would rather take it out of the reserve fund. And this is, the reserve fund is under the control of the finance committee of the town, or the advisory committee of the town, or warrant committee of the town, whoever it's called. So their preference has got to govern here, because at the end of the day, they have to vote this. So if I could, I would like to make the suggested motion, which would be in accordance with the general laws of Massachusetts, Chapter 40, Section 6, the Board of Selectmen hereby approve a budget transfer in the amount of $28,447.28 from the reserve fund to the Farm Pond Special Revenue Fund.
I second that motion.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. 3-0. What do I sign, Irene? Do I just write approved and sign this or something?
Yes, please.
What's the status on the elderly housing transfer?
With elderly housing, I'm reviewing an item with town council. That's why it's still on hold. So it may come right before town meeting or at your meeting subsequent to town meeting.
Thank you for doing this.
Good
So
job,
long
Irene.
overdue. Thank you.
Discovering things
Mike.
left and right.
I might also add that Irene's done a projection that she's worked on with Ben Williams and Mary Wolf from Advisory about projecting free cash so that Advisory would know how much free cash they could actually use towards this year's town meeting. So even with the use of the free cash at this year's town meeting, the projection still is a healthy balance over $1 million. So happy to see
Of
that.
course, it's a healthy balance. There is a fine line where you get to, if you're generating too much free cash, you might be considered to be overtaxing people. But you still you wind up in the same spot, it's mostly timing, so.
Well, let me pick up
Yeah,
on
we
that
have-
theme, because this year, at the advisory public hearing, Ben Williams actually produced a motion to use free cash to reduce the tax rate going
That's right.
forward. So the money is actually going to reduce the tax rate. Now, I've heard him say that doesn't mean your taxes are going down. That's a function of a lot of different things. But it does mean that the some of the extra revenue that we've accumulated, or money that hasn't been spent, is actually going to go to hold the tax revenue back. And I think at that hearing, he got quite an applause from pretty much everybody in the room, that it was good to see an effort made to hold down the taxes in this town. Well done for them.
Okay. Signing of the election warrant.
The attached warrant is scheduled to be used on the town election on Tuesday, May 12th. I'm just going to read off the seats that are up for election.
There's one here, a selectman for 31 years. I wanted to know,
Yeah,
how
that's
do I
no-
run for that?
I was going
I think
to
you already
note-
did, didn't you?
You got my vote, Paul.
So the seats are moderator for 1 year, selectman 3 year, selectman 2 year, selectman 1 year, treasurer 1 year, assessor 3 year, Sherborn School Committee 2 seats for 3 years each, Sound Academy 5 year, library trustee 3 seats there for 3 years each, water commissioner for a 3-year term, cemetery commissioner for a 3-year term, planning board for a 3-year term, Dover-Sherburne Regional School Committee for a 3-year term, Board of Health, 3-year term, Recreation Commissioner, 3-year term, and the 3 ballot questions. Shall the town of Sherborn be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2 1/2, so-called, the amounts required to pay for the bond issued in order to purchase 2 one-ton pickup trucks? That's for community maintenance and development. And then, shall the town of Sherborn be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2 1/2, so-called, the amounts required to pay for the bond issued in order to make improvements to the Pine Hill School? And shall the town of Sherborn be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2 1/2, so-called, the amounts required to pay for the bond issued in order to fund the construction, renovation, expansion of the Sherborn Public Library building? So there are only 3 items on the ballot that are requesting Prop 2 1/2.
Move to approve and sign the 2015 Sherburne annual election warrant.
Second.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Sign this one, Diane?
Yes, please.
All right. I don't know how my full middle name got put in here, but that's okay.
I was wondering what your full middle name was.
Maybe Carol may have me registered that way.
What is it,
There's been
Aloysius?
an active debate in the community as to what your middle name
That's it,
actually
yeah.
is, and now suddenly you stand revealed.
It's got to be voter registration or something.
At least Peter and I have our middle initials.
Your incognito names there.
That's right.
I think Peter needs to sign.
Oh,
There you go.
This is it.
Okay. Paul, we did have one item that we did not take action on, which was a disclosure statement signature, because I'm recused from that. So if you want to pick up the gavel and you and Peter can deal for that, and then we can come back and do town administrator report, if that's all right. I will move aside.
Do you want me to go ahead and read?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm just trying to find the paperwork.
As everyone knows, there are a lot of different disclosure forms that have to do with conflicts of interest, and this one is Jim Campbell, a member of the Public Safety Committee, filed a disclosure by a non-elected municipal employee of financial interest with the Board of Selectmen. Mr. Campbell holds a financial interest in 2 of the cell tower companies in the town of Sherborn. In his role as sitting on the Public Safety Committee, he will not be signing anything on behalf of the town nor representing the town in any official capacity other than assisting and giving his technical knowledge to us during any procurement processes. Mr. Campbell has a background in communication system engineering and is acting as the lead representative of the Public Safety Committee to assist in procurement and installation of communications equipment at both cell tower sites. So the document is it's a several-page document, or a 2-page document that gets signed by the appointing authority and then gets filed in the town clerk's office. So the appointing authority is the Board of Selectmen, and the vote would have to be authorizing one of you to sign as the appointing authority.
And it has to be unanimous because we need to have 2 votes.
Right.
I would say that I know Jim Campbell for a long time. This community operates on the basis of volunteers coming forward who have specialized knowledge and who are willing to contribute to the best interests of the community. Mr. Campbell has that specialized knowledge in communication system engineering. I have no doubts of his integrity and his knowledge. He is a former selectman who sat next to me here on this board, so it was an honor and a privilege to serve with him. And based on all of that, I am certainly willing to make the finding, which is that,
Yeah, it's a motion, Paul, and I would make the motion, but just before doing that, David, just part of what you're trying to do here is Jim adds a lot of value to your effort to get the widgets that need to go up on top of the tower when they put the tower up, and that tower's going up. What's the status of timing of things here? Do we have any timing issues
Yeah,
with the right widgets and so forth?
Yeah, I believe they told me I should order them in June, I think, so that we would have delivery of them to be able to place on top of their tower. But looked like there would be a tower this summer.
Okay.
It was Christian Carmody that I've been talking to about the timing. Back a month ago, they brought some equipment in down to Farm Pond. We cleared out the parking lot for them that was doing some drilling things.
Yeah.
And, but it's moving along.
So so part of the key to the whole deal was to have our equipment ready for them to put it up on the tower when they're here doing the tower. And everybody thinks this June timeframe is sufficient. The only reason I ask that, I'm in the business of selling widgets, and the question I always hate to answer is, when will it ship? Because sometimes there's stuff that gets in the way, and
Right.
Things have to happen before the widgets get put up, and people get unhappy if there are delays because you need a particular part or whatever. So I just
Yeah.
caution that we don't get down to the wire here on this wireless
Yeah.
carrier and wind up, a little short on the safety communications. But all that being said, I would make a motion to authorize Paul Durensis to sign the document representing the Board of Selectmen as the appointing authority.
second. Any further discussion?
This is Jim on the,
Communications.
Yes, Jim.
yeah, he's done a lot of work over the years on the cell towers here in town. And as long as he wants to do it, don't let him get away.
That's our sentiment exactly. All right, all in favor?
All right, perfect, Paul.
No. Mr. Jim?
Yeah,
Sorry.
how'd we look from up there in the cheap seats?
way more efficient than you are when I'm up here. Okay, David, you had a town administrator statement or discussion that you wanted to lead here?
Yeah. I have a couple of items. One, I wanted to announce the Sherborn Cleanup Day is being held Saturday, May 2nd. It's the annual cleanup day, and residents of all ages are invited and encouraged to take part in this event. On cleanup day, participants will meet at Town Hall at 8 o'clock a.m., and break off from there. They'll break into teams and clean certain sections of town. Participants should place small trash items in blue recycling bags provided by the town of Sherborn, and these bags may be picked up at either the Selectman's office or at the Community Maintenance Development Facility prior to the event. And these bags, once full, can be closed, secured, and placed near the roadside for collection later on that day on May 2nd. Larger trash and recyclable items that are too large to fit in the bags can be placed near the roadside, and please contact Cleanup Day staff to coordinate pickup of these items during the event. If you'd like to participate or register a whole team, please contact the CM&D Director, Ed Wagner, at ed.wagner@sherbornma.org, or by calling 508-651-7878.
Okay, that's a Saturday, David?
Saturday, May 2nd.
Thank you for doing this.
We got it done.
Good. Excellent.
The other item I wanted to mention was the Santander Bank will be changing hands to Middlesex Savings Bank. I'm not sure the exact date, but we did reach out to Donna Nesh. She's the Executive Vice President and Chief Community Banking Officer, and we welcomed them to town, and that went well, and we have some communications with them.
So you went out and actually met with them, and,
I haven't met with them.
You
No,
spoke with
just
them.
open, yeah, I
That's
opened
great.
up that, yeah.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, so the Sherborn branch, as Elliot broke the news about a month ago that Santander was leaving the shopping plaza, and now it looks like we've got a successor, so that's good.
Yeah, we originally thought it was Needham, a bank from Needham, but it turns out it wasn't. It's Middlesex.
Middlesex, great, good.
Middlesex is coming in,
That's what we're saying, exactly.
but Santander's going bye-bye, and then Middlesex is coming into the same spot.
Yep,
Yeah.
So you have a bank, you can bank on it.
it's good.
Waiting to say that, Joe.
You can take that to the bank, is that what you're telling us, Elliot?
The only other item that I had under the TA report is that we were contacted and thought it would be a good idea to kind of put down on paper what's been going on with finances before we, not with finances, but financial structure before we go into the next town meeting. So Irene and I worked on some slides and put something together that we'd be looking for your comment on, and maybe as soon as we get comments on that, we could put it on the website or wherever, if you want to pass those down. And,
Okay, so this is a financial structuring plan.
right, so this is what we called it was a Sherborn 2020, and it's a local finance purpose and progress. It starts out explaining the major elements of what are involved in local finance, and who is involved in Sherborn's finances. There are several different entities like the Board of Selectmen, Town Administrator, Town Accountant, the moderator appointed boards of the appointed advisory committee, appointed capital budget committee, elected board of assessors, and there's an appointed director of assessing. There's an elected treasurer and an elected tax collector. And then we talk about that there's not really any one single resource that is responsible for the overall finances. And then I talk about how did we get this structure. Basically, that's town meeting votes, ballot votes, enacting bylaws, passing special acts, and decisions made internal by employees. And then we had a picture of
You
what...
slipped over one key slide, and I know you're not showing the slides here, but you had one key slide, do many hands deliver the best work product?
Oh, okay.
And that's part of what's driving what you're doing, would you
Right.
say?
The financial structure has been traditionally decentralized, which people have argued that it's inefficient and costly. It's departmentalized, which allows departments basically supervision of themselves. No central financial coordination, and there's very limited staffing to deliver any of these, with very few full-time professional positions, and most offices only open 4 half days a week. We had a graphic of what the day-to-day financial management looks like in 2010. Basically, it's a board of selectmen appointing a town administrator, and under the town administrator is the town accountant, also hired and appointed by the board of selectmen. And then if elected officials were board of assessors, who appoints their own director of assessing, and then an elected treasurer and an elected tax collector. Then the next few slides just go about recent efforts related to town financial management. It notes the November 2011 report relative to the organization and operations that was completed by the Collins Group, Collins Center for Public Management at University of Massachusetts in Boston. And another document was May 2012. It was a financial management review completed by Mass Department of Revenue, Division of Local Services Technical Assistance Section. At the 2013 annual town meeting, there were some competing articles regarding a strong town administrator. There was some confusion over those, and they did not pass. At that same town meeting, a governance task force was authorized to be appointed by the elected town moderator. In 2014, the 2014 annual town meeting, the Sherborn Governance Task Force brought forth several articles. Two of them were special acts. One of them was expanded the Board of Selectmen from 3 to 5, and the other was approving routine warrant signing authority given to the town administrator. There was also a town administrator job description that was added to the bylaws that assigned and detailed duties of Chief Administrative Officer, Human Resources Director, Chief Procurement Officer, coordinating of facilities, and serving as ex officio in several committees. And it also established limited appointing authority for those positions that do not have an appointing authority established in statute or bylaw, which means the CM&D union and the town accountant's office, those people, and the selectman's office primarily. There was a fall 2014 special town meeting. It was consideration of an article changing elected treasurer to appointed treasurer. I'm currently serving, and at that time was the temporary treasurer and was recommending it. The article didn't pass. It failed by 5 votes. I think passage by losing only by 5 votes kind of failed to resolve the matter, so it's still being talked about. In fiscal year 2014, this is some things we've done in the finance area. We moved all union employees to the existing non-union biweekly payroll, and that reduced the number of payroll warrants from 52 to 26. We also set forth expectations for achieving financial milestones, preliminary audit completion, and certification of free cash. In fiscal year 2015, in regards to the administrative assistant position that was shared between the treasurer and the town accountant, we eliminated that sharing in the budget, so the position was budgeted only in the treasurer's department. Only in the town accountant's office. Under the treasurer in the current year was the full-time payroll admin assistant. So in regards to payroll and benefits this year, we moved responsibility for payroll and benefits in the associated full-time position to be completely under the town accountant, and the retirement benefit stays with the treasurer by statute. For the 2015 annual town meeting, warrant preparation included extensive discussions about changing the elected treasurer to appointed, changing elected tax collector to appointed, changing tax collector title to town collector, combining tax collector with treasurer, establishing a charter commission, adopting a statutory finance department, establishing a position of finance director / accountant. The final warrant contains the following articles for consideration: changing elected treasurer to appointed; 2, changing tax collector title to town collector; and 3, establishing a position of finance director / town accountant. And we were excited to see that that we are moving in the direction of having a central finance authority and a finance director who also has the authority over the accounting. The finance director / town accountant position, if passed, will establish management supervision of entire financial function, direct reporting and accountability to the Board of Selectmen, and it'll be one point of contact for annual audit and DOR reporting. This position will oversee compliance with municipal finance laws and regulations, and administers and maintains the town's financial accounting and management information system, and centralizes the budget function. Looking at a 5-year strategy, in the current year, we'd like to vote and establish finance director accountant, review and update all financial policies and procedures. In 2016, elected treasurer and tax collector changed to appointed. These are what we would like to see, a wish list if we were planning the future. Elected treasurer and tax collector changed to appointed. And then in 2017, adopt Mass General Law 43C, establishing a consolidated Department of Municipal Finance. And then the following year, 2018, combine the treasurer and the collector positions into one collector-treasurer position, maintaining a separate assistant unique to each function. In 2019, looking for to establish dual reporting for Director of Assessing. This exists in many towns where there's an elected board and somebody who carries out, oversees the statutory responsibilities, and then the day-to-day office responsibilities are overseen by a central authority, which would be, in this case, the finance director. So on the last slide just says Sherborn 2020, and that's the structure that would look like in the end. It's basically the Board of Selectmen, and underneath that, a finance director / town accountant, and then assistant town accountant reporting to the finance director, town accountant, the payroll coordinator reporting to the assistant town accountant, then a treasurer collector reporting to the finance director accountant. And then under the treasurer collector, there would be two positions, two assistant positions, one an assistant treasurer and one an assistant collector. And then under assessing, the assessor would report duly to the Board of Assessors and to the finance director, retaining the position of assistant assessor. And then we put in the advisory committee on the side. Now you might wonder, I'm not there. And that's because the article that is under consideration is for the finance director to be reporting directly to the Board of Selectmen. So I would kind of be off that, working in cooperation with the I would be an operations person working in cooperation with the finance person. But this was specifically focusing on the finances, so that's why.
And this is the
I'm
article
sure.
that's in front of the town meeting
Yes.
next week, 2 weeks.
Yeah, and that article has support of the Board of Selectmen, the Governance Task Force, and the Advisory Committee.
Right.
I see you have the finance director dotted line reporting to advisory committee. Is that what you actually meant?
No, that's
For
for
support.
communications between the two, but the finance director has always supported the Advisory Committee in some way. Also, I wanted to give Irene a chance to speak about this because I believe I told her that she could do the last 3 slides, and then I walked all over it.
didn't.
Mic hog, he's a microphone hog.
You were on a roll, David, it's okay.
I'll just answer any questions on the last 3 slides.
So, well, Irene, how do you feel about these? You worked these out with David? This was kind of a joint brainstorming
Yes.
exercise? Good.
And it's also based upon experience in a prior municipality, what they went through in the late 90s. It took about 5 years to transition a finance department to a consolidated finance department.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is clear, concise, easy to follow. So my only comment is, I don't know why you didn't use technology and let the audience and the viewers see what you put in front of us. Maybe you can do that at a future date, I guess, but,
We don't have a laptop that works, and it was just finished about 45 minutes
So we
ago.
need an IT department as well as a
We
finance department?
figured that in.
where would that department report?
Operations?
Yes,
I think
but
so.
that's why we were thinking about putting it on the website, and we also were thinking about getting it on Dover Sherborn cable TV, so that,
If you put it on the website, put the word draft on the top of it.
yeah, it's on there now.
Okay, great, yep.
Could
But
I
I-
suggest on this last slide that you
Yeah.
put dotted lines and then have a white box on the left that says town administrator?
Okay.
Because if the dotted lines mean support,
Sure.
and you have the finance director supporting advisory, I would hope that the finance director would be supporting the town administrator too.
So something like that, appointed by the selectmen,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
then,
Yes,
okay.
yes, yeah. It's a minor revision, but I think we're all committed to having a strong town administrator. And to your comment that you're not even on the radar here in
Well-
this chart, this just strikes me as not exactly what I think the policy direction of the Board of Selectmen has been, and I think there's a sense in the community as a whole that we're
Right.
looking for leadership in the town administrator position.
Right.
Better to at least acknowledge you exist.
Right. Yeah, no, we were trying to focus in on that, what that finance department, in that department would look like.
And-
So that's how
And though the 2020 is kind of a convenient number or date to use, the 5-year strategy of doing this, does that seem like the right length of time? And I'm looking at Irene from your perspective, as opposed to 3 years or 8 years or something, is it?
It typically takes, you could try and accelerate it, depending on how each phase rolls out. The typical time period is the 3 years that it takes to become a certified treasurer collector.
Yeah.
And if we're developing assistants, they would also need to go through that track of school. So they would need the time to go through those classes as well. That's why we were focused on, worst case, the 3 years. If they've already been within classes to be certified, we could tailor that back to execute sooner.
And I think the Collins report, and it might have been in the DOR report, recommended baby steps.
Yeah, no, and that's subject to interpretation depending on
Exactly.
I think
who's
that's- yeah,
talking,
yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Right.
So that's why I'm just, if you've seen other communities go through this process, whether this time frame is a lengthy one, or it factors in the
Oh,
Sherborn time frame and,
I think
doing
it's-
things and so forth.
I mean, I would rather pull the trigger on something and do it all
Sooner.
at once, but I don't think it's
Yes.
possible in this community. Not that that's a bad thing, but the way it's structured, there are too many moving parts already that need to be finessed into a final
Would you
structure.
say if you were trying to follow this strategy, as you're doing it, you're not stuck to that time frame? You can adapt as circumstances and opportunities arise, right? To accelerate or decelerate. But this at least gives a fairly, the sequencing is most appropriate, I think, is what you're saying. And the time frame is reasonable, could be quicker if you,
Right.
had your druthers, but
Well, if
is consistent with certifications and time periods and all that, so
I mean,
I,
if opportunities do present themselves, then, yeah, that time period could be shortened up quite a bit.
Yeah.
But, like I said, this conversation started back in 2011.
right.
And we're at the point, last year, the town administrator job description got some focus. And this year, the finance director position and accountant will get some focus in bylaw. So then we'll see how that works.
So David, on this 5-year strategy, one of the things that would also be helpful, it doesn't have to be in the slideshow, but we should also have action items. Not just where we're going to end up, but how we get there. And that also plays into your discussion about timing and so forth. And I had a question, Irene, when you talked about certification. I'm not sure I completely understand how that drives the time frame. Are you saying we wouldn't be able to hire somebody who's already certified? Or are you saying we would need people to train after they had been hired? How does that work?
No, we could definitely research and go out to the market and hire somebody that's already certified. It's if we're going to develop them within,
I see.
we would need the time to develop that person further and make sure that we didn't set them up for failure.
Right,
That they had all the skills and had the practical knowledge to, achieve a successful transition.
So if there were a treasurer position that opened, by town meeting vote or whatever, there's a market for treasurers, presumably, including people who have
Yes.
certification or who are on their way to certification. And we also might have internal people, but it's not that you're ruling that out.
No, not at all. One of the things that we also looked at was combining that treasurer-collector function. And if we find somebody that's certified as a treasurer but not as a collector, they would need to obtain more experience as a collector. So that would take time, because many towns have just recently started combining them. We may find someone within the market that's dual certified right out of the gate, but this is assuming almost a worst-case scenario.
Okay. And that reminded me of something else I was going to point out. David, when you read the part about the warrant article this year to change the tax collector to the town collector, you said change the name, but it's really more than changing the name. It's really changing the function to authorize the collector to collect monies other than taxes, so.
We were thinking of expanding on those slides.
No, that's okay. I didn't want anybody to be confused that it's as simple as a name change. There's substance to it, too.
Right.
And that's supported by the current tax collector, as well as the Board of Selectmen,
Excuse me.
as well
Yeah.
as the advisory committee. Okay. Anything else anybody has on this?
Good.
It's good,
Just-
David.
Just forward any comments.
Good work.
Well, I think my sense is that we're in a better position today than we were 3-4 years ago.
Right.
We have a stronger town administrator, which is a huge plus for the community. We have someone with finance director capability.
Mhm.
It's not just something on the horizon. We actually have somebody here who can do that.
Right.
And it just seems like your year of service as the temporary treasurer was beneficial because it provided a lot of information and direct hands-on feedback on different things that were going on. So it was all to the good here.
Yeah, there are a number of other items I wanted to add in, such as the outside. Early on, we had a consulting firm come in last fall that in case we had any problems in the transition, and luckily we didn't have any problems in the transition, we didn't really have to use them, but they had given us a recommendation on what they thought should occur for a finance structure, which was basically what we were projecting would be a finance director structure. So, yeah, thank you.
All right, any selectmen reports?
Yeah, I got a couple of things.
Great.
At 11:30 today, the House Ways and Means issued its budget, and it has confirmed and included the $34 million increase in unrestricted local government assistance. That $34 million represents a 3.6% increase on our current state receipts. I don't know if that number is in the budget or it isn't in the budget. Did we factor in when we did the budget the $34 million that Charles Baker had recommended? Or did we leave it level funded?
Yeah, we factored in the governor's proposal on April 3rd.
Great. And so the House has endorsed it, which is huge. That means that's going to happen or more. It's a pretty solid number now. House Ways and Means also is increasing education aid in a number of different ways, transportation, circuit breaker, a lot of the accounts that would affect our regional schools in particular are all to the good now with what the House did. So that should make things a little easier on the school side. And just on another subject unrelated to the budget process at the state level is the $330 million that Governor Baker has now released to the communities for Chapter 90. That includes $100 million in January, the $30 million in so-called pothole money that was released, I think, in March, and then now in April he's released another $200 million for a total of $330 million, which is more money than the town of Sherborn has ever received for Chapter 90 money, and that would be well over $400,000 of money that is coming into this community for road repair. So we thank the General Court for endorsing and appropriating the money, and we thank Governor Baker for releasing the money. We do, and we have voted plans for the use of that money for this year. Only we now have more money than we thought we had, I don't know if that means that we're going to expand on any of the programs that we were planning to do, or add any roads that were not already approved. But if we are, the idea is to spend that money this year, this construction season. And the communities that I work for have already gone out to bid where necessary and are lining up contractors off of state bidding lists and the like to line them up, because everybody's trying to do all their projects all at once. So I would encourage us to be doing the same and to get on the radar of the contractors, so that we don't get to the point in late November where, finally our number comes up, and then they come to Sherborn and try and do all the work. So this is all good news. Let's act on it. And if Ed wants authority to spend more money on more roads, he should put that together and come back to us as soon as possible.
Okay.
That's it for my report.
There's plenty of road work that could be done in Sherborn, just driving over here
Yeah,
this
but we've only
afternoon.
approved
Understood.
certain items, but
I'm
not...
talking about even, maintenance and pothole filling and edge of road fixing and things that don't involve complete repaving. There's plenty of work out there. And hopefully we've got a little bit. This is the letter, this is what you were talking about, Paul. This is the governor's letter announcing the apportionment of Chapter 90 funds for fiscal year 2016 at $253,812.
The Sherborn number was...
That's,
So is that the 200 million
that's the
extra?
200 million, yes.
that's right.
That goes on top of...
The 100 that we already got,
We
right?
got 50% of that, which is
125 or something like that.
7,
Yeah.
14, 6... I'm sure Irene could do this in her sleep.
So it's just kind of about 117.
It looks like 176,000. Yeah, 176,000.
Including the extra 30 something,
No, and the 30 is 30,000.
38,000 or something.
089, I think. So the total of those.
But we still have plenty of potholes to fix, don't we?
Well, that was the point, yeah. I fell into a couple on the way over here,
Yeah.
so.
Well, that's why I
And that's
mentioned.
understandable. It's
Winter.
happening every place.
But we may have to approve more projects. That's all I'm saying, because I think we approved like...
So what of that is time sensitive? The pothole money is use it this year or lose it, right? But the rest of it you can carry over, correct? To the extent we didn't get to sidewalks on Old Orchard Drive
Yeah,
or something,
I
right?
think Ed's point, though, is that he's got so many projects queued up that needed to be done 3 years ago.
Yes.
That we probably don't have to carry anything over.
Well, I'm
Unless-
sure we
unless there's
would,
some- Unless there's
right,
something
right.
big that.
But
we
there's
can do.
no official technical time sensitivity to the spending the...
It will carry over.
Million, right?
And there's also, we're expecting another 300 million next March.
Right.
So this is 459,807. Quick and dirty. Don't tell me I added wrong. I probably did. But it's well over 450,000 now that we can spend now, get cracking on things. And we'd expect another 400,000 next year to keep moving.
Yeah.
So while we have the momentum, and again, I think we've only approved 300 for this year.
That's right. And
So-
you're continuing to work on Route 16, too, I think.
Yes, separately.
Yeah.
We can get some
So that's
additional funding there.
another angle.
Yeah, so that'll be another 400 if it comes through. So but the point is, I think we need to authorize it in order for him to spend another 150,000.
When do we typically do the Chapter 90 stuff?
We had it scheduled that he would come in before each town meeting and go through his planned
He did that.
Chapter 90
He
stuff.
told us what he wanted this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we approved that already,
Well, we
right?
approved it,
for
but we
this
moved
year,
some of the stuff
but now we have-
around Route 16.
Right, but I'm saying we can add something
Yeah.
to that now, because we have more money than we
And
Yeah.
had when we
and
did
So
there's
that.
some
maybe have-
carryover? Do we have carryover from?
And we have carryover money.
Some of that carryover money's committed, I think. Right? He's got to finish the Goulding Street West bridge, and he's got some other things that I think weren't quite done.
So, but to the conversation, it would be helpful to see, what do we have, what do we have carryover, and what do we have committed, what's available? And we may see an amount of this,
Mhm.
450, that's available, that maybe we want to go spend. And maybe we want to deal with it before town meeting, right? Before you get into a different
you
crowd.
mean-
The three of us approve some additional
We'll
chapter
have one more
90.
meeting after town meeting, probably.
Okay, but
Probably do it then.
The sooner we get going, the construction season is a finite period
Right.
in the northeast here.
yeah.
And as I say, everybody, all the towns are out there now hunting around for contractors. So the more we delay, the more our work is going to get pushed
We,
to the back of the bus.
Mm-hmm.
we have been talking to line painters and paving, and one of the things that were presented was holding off on the transfer station paving in order to do other paving, that the waiting another year before they put that final coat of top paving on it could buy us a number of extra years in the end. And I didn't know if that was going to be financially, feasible.
That's not Chapter 90 funds.
No,
Because
no,
Chapter
it's
90 is
borrowed
limited to
from-
public roads. So that's
Right.
a town meeting appropriation of extra funds for
Right.
paving.
But it's a large project that the company wouldn't have to do, that they could be doing other work for us.
So their
under
point was
Chapter
they'll
90.
do it for less next year, is that the idea?
No, they didn't say they'd do it
So,
for
so,
less
so
next
what's
year.
their point? Well, that's the question.
That the
Question-
longer that you can leave that that base there and compacting, the longer the top coat will last in the end.
Plus, they have other things
So
they want to
you
do.
so you do 1 year, let it compact another year, and it could buy you another couple of years or a few years at the end.
I thought
I
we
mean,
were
it's
going to
nothing-
do some drainage work there
That's
too.
not-
Yeah.
Have I got a deal for
Yeah.
you?
Well, to the extent they can commit to doing other projects, should there be other projects that we come up with, that makes even better sense. But if they go away because they're doing projects
my
for
point,
Framingham,
yeah.
then,
We should have Ed in.
yeah, I don't know enough about building
so
roads to.
Let's
No,
bring him
that's
in the
smart.
first meeting after town meeting.
Okay.
All right, good. Anything from you, Peter?
No?
All right, good. Motion to adjourn?
I'll moved.
All right, further discussion, all in favor? Aye, excellent.
All right.